Good afternoon everyone, hope you're all well. So this video is normally for our course members. What I'm actually going to do today is make this available for everyone that's watching, that's following, that wants to get an idea of kind of what we do on a weekly basis. So every single week what we do is we have what we call a Sunday routine, and on that Sunday routine we run through the markets, we show you some of the trades and some of the ideas that we put out for the week before, and we give you some insights for the week ahead. Now last week I picked a few trades and run through the analysis for each and every single one of them, and what I'm going to do today is recap those trades, and I'm going to make sure that you guys are aware exactly what happened, and then we're going to run through some trades going into this week as well. So we actually analyzed about 6 trades towards the the beginning of last week, and those included gold, USD CAD, GBP NZD, Aussie dollar USD, Aussie dollar JPY, and Euro CAD as well. So gold was absolutely bang on. We predicted a potential move and retracement on gold, okay, pushing back to that 1760 level to be precise, and then continuing its downward movement. Now, as you can see on this chart that we've got here, I'm just on the hourly chart, the beginning of the week happened here, okay, so the 1st of March, okay, from this point here, and as you can see we pushed straight up into 1760, almost to the pip. Okay, we did not go any higher than that, okay, last week, and we actually pushed down to my target of 1700. Now, regarding our signal service, we did have a couple of trades on gold. Okay, we had 2 trades on around this point. One of them actually pulled back and tapped our break-even stop, and the other one we actually took profits a little bit early, but we did manage to get about 250 pips on gold last week alone. So the bias was absolutely correct. We had our USD CAD analysis, okay, whereby we believed that that market was going to push down into 1.2650 before continuing its movement to the upside. And as you can see, we had that kind of slow retracement into those 1.2650 and 1.2600 levels before we actually pushed back up into those highs of around 1.2740. So 2 nice successful bits of analysis there for our team. We also had GBP NZD, whereby we were looking at potential retracements down to that 1.9150, and I'll just highlight that 1.9150 level here for you. So roughly around this point, and as you can see, the market really started picking up these buyers around this point before accelerating and pushing up to the 1.94 region. My overall target on this was actually higher than that. It was 1.95, so you can see we sort of topped out. By the end of the week, we topped out at previous highs of 1.94. This week, yeah, we certainly can see that potential movement back up and making a new high up those 1.95 levels. EuroCAD was an unsuccessful piece of analysis. We wanted to see that market come down to that 1.53 level before we were looking at potential buyers on here. But the market on Monday just absolutely died. Now USD CAD found a lot of strength last week. Sorry, not USD CAD, CAD in general found a lot of strength last week. And as you can see, the market has just pushed lower and lower and lower all week. So there was no actual trade opportunities on EuroCAD. On Monday, we actually blasted through that 1.53 level with a lot of bearish momentum, and we just continued that throughout the rest of the week. Now, Aussie dollar USD, we did expect that move to 0.7800, and again, if I just highlight that for you, 0.780 is right around this region here, and as you can see, this is where we started rejecting before actually making that next leg lower. Aussie dollar JPY, a little bit different. We had the retracement into the levels that we expected, which was around 83 or 83.5, but we actually didn't have that follow through. Okay, we didn't have that follow through to then actually continue that downward movement. Okay, so maybe we could see that happen this week. But that was the actual trades that we run through last week. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through a few of the markets that I'm going to have my eyes on this week. Now, I haven't pre-analyzed any of this, so I'm going to be doing this live with you guys. So hopefully you'll see exactly the process that we take when looking at these markets, and actually how we identify that bias on a weekly basis, and then how we stick to that bias to find our entries throughout the week. Okay, so I'm going to start pretty much just at the top, and I will always start on the higher time frames. Okay, the higher time frames such as the weekly. Okay, the weekly is where I would always start my analysis. Now, looking at the weekly, okay, if we just zoom out a little bit, we can see that we're starting to actually resist this level here. We pretty much tapped that 1.00 level, and now we're just rejecting off of that 0.99 level as well. So we're seeing that bearish momentum come through at quite a significant point, a significant number. So this week what we can expect is actually another retracement similar to last week, to then find that perfect entry to continue this short movement on Aussie dollar CAD. So my first kind of point of interest would be these kind of round figures up here. We've got 0.9750, we've got 0.980, and then what I'll do is I'll jump down into the lower time frames to try and find those perfect sort of scenarios and entry points, because we never want to be selling at the bottom. Even if we have a bearish bias, we never want to be selling down here. We want to wait for that retracement so we get the best risk rewards for our trades. So 0.98 is a nice level to focus on this week. Also somewhere just below 9850 as well, potentially just around this candle here. So this will be the kind of area and region that I'd be interested in looking at. Now, the only other time frame I will go on when doing my weekly sort of analysis is the 4 hour. Okay, and I will just again highlight those regions of areas of interest to me. Okay, this one here, and then also we've got this level about here as well. Okay, so that's what I would do at the beginning of every single week, and I would just highlight those areas where I would be interested in getting into the markets. Now, what I would be waiting for is that potential scenario where we see the market retrace in the beginning of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, pushing up to these highs around here, and then actually decelerating and pushing downwards in price. Okay, that's the kind of perfect opportunity I would be looking for and I would be focusing on. So I would be setting my alerts, okay, around this region here, so that I don't have to be staring at the charts every single day and every single minute to see if any of my markets are coming to fruition and coming to a place where I'm happy to start looking for potential opportunities to buy or sell. So I then tag this, okay, as red, a bearish market, and now I know that no matter what happens, all I want to be doing is looking for sells on Aussie dollar CAD from these regions if we get those opportunities. If we go down to the next one, we've got Aussie dollar CHF. Okay, a little bit different because CHF has been extremely weak as of late. So this isn't really a market I'd be too interested in. It's showing those rejections and showing those signs of rejection from 0.72, showing the sellers that are coming into play, but unfortunately the bulls are just very strong on Aussie dollar CHF, and that's mainly due to the weakness that's come through on Swiss franc recently. So Aussie dollar CHF, I wouldn't be too interested. I don't really like the candle structures that we've got there. Sometimes I will just jump down into the daily time frame and just see if I'm liking anything there. Do potentially like the idea of short positions, okay, potentially like the idea of short positions, but it wouldn't be one of my favorites for the week. Okay, wouldn't be one of my favorites for the week. And what I would do is just, if I was looking at this market, I wouldn't be having big targets. I'd have a relatively small target there of say 130 pips or so, but not necessarily a favored market of mine. Now, Aussie dollar JPY, okay, again, similar kind of structure and scenario. Now, JPY and Swiss franc move very similarly together. So this market is showing me those rejections from 85, from 84. So again, although this candle is bullish, for me, I still think I favor that downside momentum. Okay, so I'd jump down to the daily time frame. I'd have a look at where we're rejecting from. Okay, we're currently rejecting from this sort of region here. And therefore, if I was to be looking for opportunities here, I would be looking to target this region. Okay, and this is all just the weekly, the daily time frame. I'm not going into any more detail. You don't need to do that unless the markets are pretty much lined up already, and they're in the right locations for you to be shorting. Okay, If you're a fan of the Fibonacci tool, okay, Fibonacci you can see there has pulled up perfectly to the 61.8, rejected, and also the 0.5 is being rejected and respected on that daily time frame. So quite a few bits of synchronization there to add to your trade, and the more synchronization you have, the more chance you have of actually getting that trade correct. So again, I put that in orange. We then have Aussie dollar NZD. So Aussie dollar NZD, I do like this for potential bearish movements. Okay, we've had that big bearish candle off of quite a key point, that 1080 level. We've pushed all the way back up into this region, and then we've started to sell off, which is, I'm guessing, towards the end of the week. So again, this one requires actually dropping down, okay, dropping down into those lower time frames, the daily, finding that area of liquidity, which is right about here, okay, which is where that market is rejecting from. And then we can actually start to see that potential Fibonacci showing, similar to the last one. And then we can potentially see that we'd be looking at that movement down to these levels here. 1.0640 would be that first target, okay, 1.0640. So that would be my favorite setup on this one. Again, it's still not one of my favorites, but I just want to go through every single chart with you guys so you can see our thought process and actually how we handle these markets on a weekly basis. So Aussie dollar USD, we're still seeing some serious strength come through the US dollar in the last 2 weeks, especially after non-farm payrolls as well on Friday, and a huge push on Thursday last week as well, which leads me to believe we'll just continue this downward movement now on dollar. Now we do have quite a long-term bearish target, okay, down here. Whether I don't think we'll make that in 1 week, that will need some serious US dollar strength. But I would be keen to look for opportunities, okay, around this kind of 7750 level would be quite interesting. So again, just jump down onto those lower time frames, have a look at where that market could push back up to. Quite like this kind of region we've got here, but then we've also got this level here as well. Again, just jump down into the 4-hour time frames, and it's just about perfecting it and finding the best locations for you to actually short this market. Okay, so the ideal pocket, okay, the ideal pocket for this market is pushing back up at the beginning of the week to that 7750, maybe even 7780 level, and then actually looking for sells and selling off from there. Okay, that's what I'd be looking for on Aussie dollar USD. As I said before, we don't want to just be looking at selling because we are bearish on the higher time frames. We want to actually find that perfect opportunity. Okay, so Aussie dollar USD, I'd make that in red and I'd move on. Okay, we then have CADCHF. As I said, CHF has been selling off extremely hard, and also CAD has been very strong as well. We are coming up to a crucial level, okay, right now, but would I want to be selling that? Absolutely not. It's just picking a top. So if anything on this market, I'd actually be looking at buys. Okay, I'd actually be looking at buys, and those buys I would probably be looking at around this 7250 level. And you'll notice that, you know, round figures I keep pointing to 7250, 720, 730, whatever it might be, and that's because the market does respect and react around these levels. You can see here it's within 20 pips of 7150 we reacted, we turned. Okay, you can see here within 15 pips of 7050 we turned, we reacted. So it's very important to keep those key levels in your mind when you're looking at those potential areas to focus on for the week ahead. So that would be my thought process on CADCHF. We then have CHFJPY. Again, very bullish. A lot of people will probably be looking to sell this, especially over the last week's candle, okay, around this level here. Just delete what I've got on there already. But as you can see, the buyers on CAD at the moment are extremely strong. So again, I wouldn't look at selling that. If anything, I would look at buying it. And if we were looking at buying it, we need to look for where we would drop to potentially. And we can see a nice level there, 84.5. Okay, so that's, again, it's not one of my favorite ones, but just to give us an idea of direction. CHFJPY, I'm gonna take a look at CHFJPY. could potentially be selling off, okay, potentially be selling off and actually pushing down into this kind of 114.5 level. That's quite a slow market, okay, quite a slow market, Swissy JPY. So what I would be looking at trying to identify here would be pushing up and above that 116.64, maybe even to 117, before then looking, okay, before then looking at those potential retracements down to these levels. Okay, that would be my ideal scenario here. And also just pop down on the 4, and when you pop down on these time frames, you find other areas that might interest you. Okay, and as we've got here, that 117, just above 117, we have an area which I really like there, 117.08. okay, so they will be areas that I'd be extremely interested in looking for sells. Now what we do have to be careful on Swiss franc is we are pretty much just sitting at this level of support right now at 116. Okay, so we have to really, we're probably going to have to come up here to actually find those sellers to really push through and break this low as well. So I hope I'm not boring you guys, but I did just want to run through all of these charts to really show you how we do things on a Sunday, and how we plan our markets and our trades for the week ahead in advance, so that all we need to do is actually just wait for these kind of levels to be hit before then looking for those opportunities. So the one thing that hopefully you guys have picked up on is that firstly, we will always start on the higher time frames. We start specifically on the weekly, follow through with the daily, and then jump on the 4 hourly. The 1 hour time frame, the 15-minute time frame, the 5-minute time frame, they are only, in our case, they're only for entries. Okay, so no need to really focus on them just now. So CHFJPY looking for potential shorts. DAXI, the USD index, okay, extremely strong last week. As you can see, we did pick up some steam and really pushed up. At the moment, I don't see, there's a level we've got here which is quite interesting, 92.2. But what I would anticipate personally, again, is looking for that pushback down and then actually looking for us to sort of reach that 92.5 level. That'd be quite interesting. And on the daily, again, just highlight those areas of interest to you, this previous point of resistance here, which could now turn to support. And we've even got this area here, which I find quite interesting. So anywhere between 91.5 and 91, we could be looking at those opportunities to be buying dollar. But before then, we don't really want to be buying dollar because we are at major highs, the highest level we've been at since November last year. So best to be patient and wait for those retracements. Okay, now I'm going to, just to speed this up a little bit, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump onto, I'm going to choose 2 euro markets, okay, and I'm going to choose 2 GBP markets and 2 USD markets. Okay, so we've got Euro Aussie. Okay, Euro Aussie, as we can see, we did bounce from these lows here, 1.53. These are lows that we haven't actually reached since January 2018. So there's a lot of buyers sitting right there. So it's just pushed that market up. So that's Euro Aussie dollar. Last week we did go bearish. Okay, we did have a bearish week on Euro Aussie dollar. But as you can see, towards the end of this week, we did pop up from that 1.54 all the way to 1.55, meaning that this level here, just below that kind of 1.54, at the minute has a lot of buyers. Okay, has a lot of buyers. So we could be potentially pushing up. And again, just jump on that daily time frame, look at where those perfect entries would be. We don't want to just buy those markets at silly points. We need to buy these markets at the correct points, okay? And that is liquidity, areas of support and resistance. And this, however, would be the perfect opportunity for me if I was looking at going long, okay, on this market. I'd be looking down here in this region, and that's when I'd watch the price action on the lower time frames. So that's Euro Aussie dollar. I will choose one more. Let's choose Euro USD. So Euro USD, if we just jump onto that weekly time frame, we can see extremely bearish week last week. We've pushed down into this level here where we have previous liquidity. When I say that, what I mean is all of these wicks. So now what I do expect is a potential pullback. Okay, potential pullback. 2050 is a nice level, and if we just jump down into the daily time frame, we can then spot those areas a little bit cleaner, and we can start to look for those opportunities. Now, if EURUSD didn't want to make as much, okay, as much of a retracement, we could see that sort of 9050 level, which is only about 50 pips higher than where we are now. So it would be really important to be looking for shorts on this market around this region here. Okay, so 9050. So that would be my focus on EURUSD. We've then got a couple of GBP pairs, so let's have a look on the weekly time frame and let's show you my favorites. So GBP Aussie looks very good. Looks very good for a potential bullish market. GBP NZD is a little different, so let's do GBP Aussie dollar. So as you can see on GBP Aussie dollar, we have found that major kind of support level there at 1.750. Okay, 7500. Yeah. So we bounced from that 3 times now in the last 6 months, and also if we scroll back, you can see this is a real strong level. Okay, real strong level. If I actually just draw the horizontal ray on this market, 1.75, you can see multiple rejections around this level. So 1.75 is a key region, and now what we have done is we have accelerated away from 1.75. So we've pushed all the way up, okay, into pretty much 1.8, pulled back to 1.7750, and then again we've accelerated. So I don't see this acceleration being over just yet. I think potentially we could be pushing a lot higher, okay, pushing for that 1.8250 level maybe. Not necessarily this week, but certainly pushing into those levels in the near future. If we jump down onto that daily time frame, okay, what we can then see is we can see it a little bit clearer, so we can get an idea of where would we like to enter this market. Okay, and for me it would be this kind of wick region here. So this 1.79, we've just got wicks everywhere around 1.79. So I think this level here for me would be quite important. Okay, so that's what I would personally like to see the market come from 1.79 and then rise all the way up to 1.81, maybe even 1.82. So big movement potential there on GBP Aussie dollar, providing the US dollar continues its strength this week. And then I'll do one more market, everyone's favorite, which is gold. Okay, which is gold. So we are at an extremely important level now. We have a lot of bearish pressure right now, but we are at an extremely important level, which really could be a turnaround point. Okay, it could be a turnaround point for gold, depending on what the US dollar is doing. But this 1,700 level is extremely important. If we were to keep going lower, we could potentially target that 1632, anywhere between 1630 and 1680 would be great long-term accumulation positions on gold. Okay, and this, I don't mean this in terms of trading, I mean it more in terms of investing, because from these levels we can certainly see that market push back up into those highs, especially with everything that's happening in the world, and gold being considered that kind of safe haven. So we've got that potential to drop further. On the week, we're still bearish, okay, so we'll be looking for those opportunities to sell. Where would those good opportunities to sell be? For me, okay, it would be around this level, 1720, 1725. We've got those wicks, we've got that liquidity, we know there's buyers there, we know there's sellers there, but the sellers at the moment are very strong. So pushing back up into these levels would be very valuable to take those shorts, okay, and as I said, this market could push down even into the 1650s, okay. It'd be a hell of a move, but they certainly could. But we do need to watch around here. We need to watch those lower time frames to start seeing if we're seeing that accumulation, and if we see that accumulation, then that means there is a potential change of bias coming, and we really could see a big leg to the upside on gold. So guys, I hope you find that useful. I've run through quite a few different markets to give you an insight into how we look at things on that weekly basis, how we show our bias, and how we stick to our bias unless anything obvious changes. Okay, and what I mean by obvious changes is huge daily candles. So for example, last week EuroCAD was a huge daily candle. We expected that small retracement into this level, but this market just absolutely died, and this is due to Canadian dollar strength. So when that happens, we have to be aware that these bears are very, very strong on this market right now, and that therefore it might not do what we expected it to do, and that's where we need to potentially change our bias and consider these as factors. So guys, that should wrap it up. I've gone through last week's picks. I've gone through the markets this week. Probably covered about 10 or 12 different markets for you guys to focus on. And yeah, hope you find it useful.